Good day, my plant foldies. This is Richie at Grow Folds, and today we'll be big box store plant shopping at the Walmart off of Custer Road in McKinney, Texas. As always, please make sure you are hitting that like button for my video, as well as following me on Instagram at Grow Folds. That's the fastest way to get in touch with me. And if you really like daily 1-hour plant shopping videos and live premiere chats, please subscribe to my channel with the notification bell on. I love connecting with all of the plant foldies. And if you are new to this channel, I call my viewers and subscribers plant foldies. So today I am going late afternoon to Walmart. This is a Walmart that I have found several beautiful trending tropical plants by Costa Farms. So we're gonna see what plants they may potentially have. So I just recently got back from the Philippines about a week ago. So last week was a full week of work. This is middle of the week. I'm back in the groove of making some brand new content. And I will say thank you to all the plant foldies that have come on the live premiere chats. Our viewer and engagement has really increased, so I'm glad that we're getting those numbers back up. I want to thank all of those that have actually left comments in the comments section. It really does help push the videos out to more people. We've seen quite a bit of new subscribers this past week, and just know that my live premiere chats and videos will premiere at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time unless I actually announced that on my Instagram story. So if you don't have Instagram, please make an account, follow me. That's where I really do all of my announcements. But as you can see here, plant foldies, just right off the bat, I can tell that there's not quite as many plants. So it poses the question of where have all the plants gone for the summer? I haven't been blogging, since last year about what plants actually come in during the summer. I would say even here, look at this right here, the outdoor section for this particular Walmart. The whole wall doesn't have nearly as many plants. So this episode, I really just want to focus on the plants that are left for the summer. I don't know if they're going to get an impulse push for more plants or if they're just kind of phase out all of the plants. But you can see here, for instance, we've got some plants already starting to be on clearance. This is for $10. It was originally $17.89. This is a Mexican false lavender. I don't know a lot about the plant. I do like the fact that it is on clearance. And so when it comes to big box store plant shopping, I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos. Sometimes you get lucky and you find these clearance plants. I have been lucky enough to go to a Walmart and seen like some of the vendors actually marking down some of the prices, and the plants are completely healthy. Now, Vinca, I am not surprised that Vinca flowers are still readily available in the summertime, just because Vinca flowers are very much drought tolerant, heat tolerant, and also love full sun. I am based out in North Dallas, and my grow zone is 8B, and this is a plant that really works well for flower beds. Now, when I went to the Philippines, and my family is originally from the Philippines for my new subscribers, I took a vacation, and I remember seeing Vinca flowers growing into full blown bushes. Like they had very woody stems, and I think it's interesting that it is true that depending on your grow zone, a plant can either be an annual, like the Vincas would be in my grow zone, or a perennial, where it is basically a plant that may grow through a growing season and then die off in the winter and come back in the spring, or an evergreen, where it's basically a plant that can live year round. And I would say Vinca flowers in the Philippines are definitely evergreens. They do prefer that tropical environment, which is really surprising to me, but needless to say, you're always learning. Now over here, we've got some portulaca, and portulaca is basically a ground cover type succulent with some beautiful flowers. And then over here, we've got some more Vinca flowers. So, for me, Vinca flowers, and this one is for $5.88. For me, Vinca flowers are a flower that I would recommend for any landscape container garden. They're easy to grow. Again, they're very drought tolerant. So if you are in a hot environment like Texas, although surprisingly in the last week, it hasn't been nearly as hot. I just always remember how we went for almost 3 months with no rain, or correct me if I'm wrong. It felt like there was very little rain last year with 100-degree weather. So, that is a plant that can definitely withstand that type of heat. Same thing with portulacas. They need a lot of sun, full sun. And then over here, we still have a bunch of Vincas. So Based on the other big box store that I visited, Lowe's, it does seem like a lot of the big box stores, in terms of their outdoor garden section, they're a little bit more sparse with the selection of plants. And you know, that's the thing. So for me, whenever I was doing these big box store plant shopping videos, especially when I was filming almost every day, I mean, pretty much every day in the spring, I just remember like mid-spring, it was just a whole fiesta of just beautiful plants that were just constantly being replenished. This is somewhat what it looked like before. Like, I remember seeing trays and trays of Coleus plants. I'm surprised that they still have Coleus plants. I've seen that a lot of big box stores really don't have Coleus plants, and this one is for $6.97. Just for that price, I would want to buy that Coleus plant. Now, I believe I do have this Coleus plant. So what I did with all of my Coleus plants is, since they are a plant that requires a lot of water, like they cannot dry out. They're very finicky in that sense. And I'm surprised that I love Coleus because I never really water my plants. That's the biggest drawback in my plant care. But I ended up moving all of my Coleus plants to the backyard next to a sprinkler system. So they're automatically, watered. But with these Coleus plants right here, this is super lush. And for those that haven't really thought about doing, growing Coleus plants in your collection, these plants can be grown indoors. I would say for indoors, though, they would need a little bit more light for sure. And you definitely need to stay on top of the watering. But like, this is such a beautiful plant. This is a plant that I definitely will continue to grow. I have more than a dozen varieties of them, actually maybe 24 varieties of them. I just went crazy and bought pretty much every single type of variety that was available. But I love that Coleus are fast growers. You can pinch off a piece of them, stick it in water, or better yet, just stick it in soil. Within a week, you've got another brand new plant. They propagate so easily. And that brings me a lot of joy. Part of plant collecting is being able to create life, being able to foster that, and being able to share that with friends. I talk about a community of plant foldies. I am getting so excited to meet up with a lot of you guys at PlantCon 2024. So if you haven't already, it is on August 31st, September 1st, that weekend. Please buy your tickets for PlantCon. If you really want to see some really cool plants, both rare and exotic, but also common plants, definitely check that out. If you are a plant foldie and you're listening to me during this live premiere chat, please leave in the comments section if you intend to go. I have to really figure out how we're all going to meet up. What I want to do is, you can probably find me. Now, I am faceless on YouTube, but it's really interesting how some of our local plant foldies have kind of recognized me as I've been filming around these local nurseries. I will be designing some t-shirts for sale, and perhaps, maybe you'd want to purchase one, order one. So just let me know if you have interest, but I'm hoping that we will be able to find each other that way. Or if you have Instagram, please send a message to me directly. I will definitely be uploading on Instagram on a location that we can possibly meet at the PlantCon. But anyways, going back to the plants, you can see it went through and showed you some crepe myrtle. I really like the dark foliage on that. This one, I've never seen a Veronica purple illusion. This one is still by full price for $12.97. So I'm thinking a lot of the plants that are still on sale are probably plants that are still very much into the season. So I would really like to know, for those that are experts at gardening, that know landscaping, what plants are really popular for summer growing. I know that there is a fall season as well, and I'm really curious to see how that all pans out in terms of just outdoor plants. I still want to be able to blog pretty much every single day to show you guys beautiful plants. Like this one right here, Lantana, $8.78. Absolutely beautiful lantana. I love the flowers. I was never really into lantana. I always just thought that they were just kind of like a ground cover. But then when I realized how fast growing they are, how drought tolerant they are, how they just really light up a space and really create a mound of flowers. I really like that a lot, especially for areas that you just want to fill up with something that's going to still be pretty to look at. Every time I look in my backyard, the wall of lantana that I have that have grown so quickly in just one growing season. I'm super excited. I remember buying lantana even smaller than this and planting it earlier this year, and they have really spread and really have grown quickly, and I love that. And the thing about lantana, especially for my grow zone, which is 8B again in North Dallas, these plants are what you call perennial plants. So these will plants will grow throughout the season all the way into fall, perhaps early winter, die off when it freezes, but then will come back year after year. So not only is it advisable to plant plants that are perennials, they are also cost effective. So I talk about, you know, ways to save money with plants. For the landscape, I would say outdoor gardening, you definitely want to go lean toward more so perennials. So if you see a perennial plant, definitely check your grow zone first, because some perennials may end up actually being annuals depending on your grow zone. But you know, lantana, that's one plant I would recommend for anybody that lives out in Texas, anybody that's in the deep south. They are very drought tolerant and I absolutely love it. And then over here we have a happy ice plant. So not sure what that all entails, but this is for $9.74. It looks like more of a succulent type plant. This will have some beautiful blooms, and that's another plant that I don't know too much about, but that's the beauty of being able to just go into a big box store like Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, you know, specific grocery stores, nurseries. I enjoy having the flexibility to just look at plants and learn about them. Like right here, this is another lantana, which I might actually consider buying later, maybe in another date, if they still have them on clearance for $5. But a full hanging basket of lantana. Now, I don't know the flower bloom for it, but this would be a perfect size to stick in my front yard. I do intend to grow lantana in my front yard next year, just because I feel like my front yard actually gets very intense sun. My house actually faces the south, so I get a lot of bright light. I don't really have any shade trees, and I just think that lantana would be a really good mounding type shrub, flowering shrub, that I can grow long term with very minimal care. You can see this one does need a little bit of water. And then I'm just going to spin around here, but plant foliage, notice how a lot of the this outdoor section at Walmart is pretty much bare. So I'm curious, for those that live in different areas of the country, have your outdoor sections for plants have gotten a little bit smaller in selection? Definitely leave that in the comments. I'm definitely curious to have that. And then over here, you can see we have some oleanders. So the thing about oleanders is most people will not know that this is a very toxic plant. You really don't want to get the sap. You definitely don't want to ingest the leaves, anything of that nature, any part of the plant. And that's just the interesting part about plants. We don't really always know that they're very toxic. I mean, there are some tropical plants, for instance, Dieffenbachia, that are a little bit more toxic, so you don't want to get that sap on your skin. But you know, oleanders, they definitely like full sun. They have beautiful flowers. I remember going and taking a trip to Napa, California, and on the highways they just had a bunch of oleanders, beautiful different types of colors and blooms, and they were just growing so great there in that environment. Now, I did see a beautiful oleander out in Home Depot. It was a variegated oleander, but you can see for this one, it is only $11.84. And I would say oleander are a pretty vigorous grower. They're pretty fast growing, and you can see how beautiful that flower is right there. That is the hardy white oleander. They also have a hardy pink oleander available at Walmart. So you've got many options, and this one, unfortunately, is still full price. You know, I'm always looking for a bargain when it comes to plants. And that's part of the reason why I like to do plant shopping videos. Plant foldies is, especially if you live out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you will know what the current pricing is, what plants we have available in most of our big box stores. Well, specifically in the North Dallas area. I don't get down to South Dallas as much, but I mean, for the most part, I feel like all of our plants are pretty much the same throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. Now over here, Fatsa japonica, really like the look of Fatsa japonica as well. This is a plant that Eventually, I would love to be able to grow indoors. This is definitely a plant that, to my surprise, is actually a perennial for Grow Zone 8B. You can actually grow this in Texas in the landscape. Now, the only thing about Fatsa japonica is you have to put them in a more shaded area. Full sun will definitely kill them and fry them. And the variegated forms are a little bit more finicky. So I remember buying a beautiful green on green variegation called the camouflage Fatsa japonica, or Japanese Aralia. I had it in shade, but it just didn't do as well in terms of just handling the heat. So, you know, with variegated plants, as much as we love them, I absolutely adore them. They are a more I would say unstable plant in terms of just the health. They're not as hardy as just a green plant, because clearly something like this, for instance, this is a Nandina. They just, you know, can actually photosynthesize better. They have more chlorophyll. They're a little bit more vigorous growers. So there is something to be said about plants that are not variegated. I think that non-variegated plants need to get the same type of love as variegated plants. You know, I do fall into that same rabbit hole where it's like you want to just collect every single variegated plant, but green plants are amazing as well. And then plant foliage, you can see right here, beautiful oleander bloom. Again, to my surprise, I didn't really know that oleander were actually a very toxic plant. So you don't want any of your pets, you don't want kids around it, you don't want to ingest any type of part of this plant because it is highly toxic. But this one right here is a pretty big one for $24.49. That is by Garden Expert, which is basically Walmart's plant brand. And over here, we've got a bunch of pygmy date palms. Now, as far as pygmy date palms, I'm not sure if you really want to grow those indoors. I believe that is more of an outdoor plant. Now, as far as a grow zone, I'm not sure if this can actually survive in Texas or in my grow zone. So plant foliage, if you know anything about pygmy date palms, please let me know. What I do know is palms definitely need a lot of light. Now, Encore Azalea Autumn Bravo, I love azaleas. You know, I think azaleas are awesome. I'm so happy that I have 3 Satsuki azalea that have been planted in the ground, that was able to survive the winter, that grew back. I bought those from Metro Maples, and I actually have a video of Metro Maples, several of them, if you want to check that out, and if you love Japanese maples. But to go back to this, I love Encore azaleas because they rebloom. And there's something to be said about Encore azaleas. Just the fact that they rebloom. Most azaleas will only bloom in the spring, maybe late spring, maybe early summer, but these will bloom 3 times a year. And I just love the blooms of them. They are definitely great for Japanese gardens, which is something that I am trying to aim for my backyard. And then over here, we've got a Abellia Peach Perfection. You can see that this is a flowering shrub. This one is for $24.94. It doesn't get that large. It's only 3 to 4 feet in height. And you can see right here that they have just several blooms. And then over here is a Alamanda plant. This one has those yellow bell type blooms, beautiful yellow flowers. I love yellow flowers, but I would say my favorite type of bloom would either be a white flower or a pink flower. But again, this is also for $24.94. This one is also a plant that can be grown pretty much throughout Texas. It does have that climate to where it can grow pretty successfully. So that's a plant that I would recommend if you're wanting to grow them out in Texas or maybe in the southern type states here. Super excited that we do still have a couple of plants, although it does just feel very bare. And I'm just gonna ask, like, where have all the plants gone? Our nursery's not going to keep supplying plants for big box stores. Just let me know if you have any insights. If I didn't really buy plants over the summer last year, more so actually did any plant videos for YouTube last year. So this is very new to me. I will continue to go to big box stores and kind of check out what the selection is. You know, places I do want to look up at as a big box store would be like Home Depot next, maybe a couple more Walmarts, definitely Lowe's. But as you can see here, those tables are pretty bare. You can see here though, we have a variegated ajuga. I love variegated ajuga. This one is a 6-pack for $7.47 by Garden Expert. I love the purples, the pinks, the creams, the whites, the variegation on it. And this plant actually is very versatile in terms of the amount of light. I have actually grown this plant in full sun, and it did very well. It also does well in shade. It is a great ground cover, but more so, I want to be able to grow this plant indoors. So I have a couple of them in containers. They're doing very well. What I like is when it gets that deep purple, pink color. I absolutely love it. And this is a very easy plant. I will say this plant is a bit thirsty, so you have to make sure you stay on top of it. Now for me, whenever I grow plants outdoors, it's not as challenging because I can literally take a hose, I can have a sprinkler system and water. But if I'm growing plants indoors, you can't just hose down plants in your home. You have to take a little bit more time with like a watering can. And you can see with that variegated ajuga, it is easy to propagate as well. Some people will say that it is a little bit more of an invasive plant if you put it down in the ground. I have not put it in an area where it could just grow wild. I don't think it's going to be as invasive as say like a mint plant or something of that nature. And you can see over here, plant foldies, we do have a bunch of different ornamental grasses as ground cover. And then as I spin around here, you can see that they still have containers. So you can see they have some type of ornamental grass with some lantana. Now I would just love to grow more lantana. If you were to see my backyard, I have so many of them and they've gotten pretty big as well. So plant foldies, again, I keep talking about doing a houseplant tour, a garden tour. Let me know if you are really interested in seeing that. I am working pretty hard to get my house in order for an epic house tour video. If I do that, it's going to be quite a long video, so we'll see what that looks like. But as you can see here, there are some succulents as well. That one's a pretty nice looking succulent. I would recommend buying succulents at Walmart when they are stocked because Walmart has probably the most cost-effective succulents selection. Now these are usually sourced out by Element Plants. You can see there's not nearly as many succulents available at this Walmart, for instance. So again, I'm not sure if they're just letting these plants sell through and then they're just going to phase out the plants for the outdoor section. I'm hoping that we'll get some more new plants for the summer. So I think that that would be my new goal as far as I make big box store videos, is just really finding areas that still have quite a bit of plants. Now in terms of plants, definitely the local plant nurseries will definitely have those. I recently went to Callaway's, for instance. They're still super full, as well as other nurseries. So we'll just see what that looks like for big box stores. But you can see right here, there's still quite a bit of Hydra Helix, or the Hedera Helix English Ivy. This one is trailing. It looks like it is living its best life. It doesn't look like a lot of people bought a bunch of English Ivy, so maybe this is not a popular plant to really be grown outdoors. It is a plant, I would say, in order to really be successful, you might want to just grow these plants outdoors. They don't do really well indoors, at least for me. Now maybe you guys are much better at taking care of plants, but for me, the Hedera Helix or English Ivy either get underwater and they just die, or they get hit with spider mites. So, but as I can pan away here, you'll notice that this outdoor section is pretty sad actually. I was hoping to see more plants. So that's why whenever I went to Lowe's, I was so super surprised that they had quite a bit of plants. I'm hoping that Walmart, as far as a big box store, will get more plants in, just because everybody loves plants. I feel like even in the summertime, we're still doing some gardening. So we're just going to spin around here and look at what indoor tropical plants we have left to kind of pilfer through. Now, this is the Walmart that I was able to find $7 Philodendron Pink Princess, as well as some really cool trending tropical plants. So this one is a Pachira aquatica. I love this. This is for $4. I wish it was $4 actually. $14.97. Now, the green form is one that we'll see often in the United States, but when I was in the Philippines on vacation, I saw massive ones, highly variegated Pachira aquatica, and so I wish I would be able to find a variegated form of a Pachira aquatica. That's when I would add one of these plants. The green form is nice, and I may end up eventually just adding that to my collection. It is a pretty vigorous grower as well, and you know, it's been said that this plant is supposed to bring good luck to a household, so you know, we can all benefit from some great you know, positive energy, some good luck. But Pachira aquatica, this is the braided form for $14.97. There's still quite a bit. There's at least one tray of it still available, and then somebody must have changed their mind on this, but this is some type of aloe vera plant. I didn't really realize that there were many varieties of aloe vera. You know, that goes to show that at least for my big box store plant shopping videos, I've been able to really educate myself a lot. You know, this one is for $24.46, but as far as some of the commentary and feedback I've received, people have mentioned that, you know, I'm pretty knowledgeable about plants. I don't think I am. I just really lean into what I've learned from my grandmother, what I've learned over decades of just growing plants, and then just reading, you know, actually doing research and checking out plants. Like for instance, this is a Sansevieria trifasciata, $14.97 in a self-watering planter. I would recommend snake plants or Sansevieria for beginners because I feel like they are a pretty forgiving in terms of you not watering them, as well as not giving them the best lighting conditions. They can tolerate lower light conditions. And when I say that they are low light tolerant, it doesn't mean the plant really wants to sit in an area that it doesn't get as much light. It means that the plant can still survive in a lower light condition. So that's the reason why snake plants are a little bit easier to bring indoors. Now, I mentioned this in pretty much all my videos. I feel like any plant that is brought indoors, if you give them bright indirect light, that's really the happy medium for most plants. Now, some plants, however, need bright light. So that's another discussion. But for the most part, if you want your plants to grow at a good rate to be healthy, you want to get them that bright light or even have a grow light indoors. Like for instance, the philodendron ring of fire here. Now this is also for $24.97. I have been lucky to buy philodendron ring of fire from this particular Walmart when the vendor has marked them down to like $5 or even $7. So I bought several of them in the hopes of planting multiples in one pot with a moss pole to really get a nice full specimen plant. We'll see how that goes. But with what I've discovered about philodendron ring of fire is the variegation is actually influenced by the amount of light you give it. If you give it less light, it will actually be more green. So you want to make sure that you're providing it with a lot of light. And then over here is the philodendron white princess, although there's not really a lot of variegation on it. This one is also for $24.97. Honestly, I wouldn't pay full price for any of these plants by Growers Bench, simply because I know that at least at big box stores, they do cycle off these plants. So if you can wait a little bit, if there's not as big of a demand, and I would say in this particular Walmart, for instance, there's not a lot of people running to try to get these philodendron. So the likelihood of these plants kind of sitting still and not being sold is actually high. And so I always wait for them to kind of go on clearance if possible. Now, if there is a plant with beautiful variegation, super healthy, and you want that instant gratification, I say go ahead and buy it. But I honestly refrain from buying plants now at full price at certain big box stores because I know that they cycle off. Now, Home Depot is the only big box store that doesn't really do clearance sales. They really don't do that. So that's one place that I don't really hold on to. But when it comes to Walmart and Lowe's, yes, those are places that I would hold off on buying certain plants. But you can see here for $24.97, we've got a ficus ginseng plant. Now this one is in the bonsai form. I think it's in the bonsai form simply because of the caudex or the trunk area. It's a nice thick area. It's a beautiful plant. It's a plant that doesn't really interest me anymore just because I've had one in the past, but it's not really one that I'm really into. If I'm gonna get something like that, I would buy a desert rose instead. But you can see here, I'm gonna pull the different types of philodendron ring of fire. This is also for $24.97. I do like the new grower pots by Growers Bench. I like that more modern, simple pot. I like matte finishes on planters. I just feel like they are just a little bit more stylish for me. That's just my personal preference. But you can see here, and we're going to check out what if it's just a clear pot, and it is. And I'm actually surprised that they actually put, these plants in a clear pot. I think that's really ingenious. I love that as well. That is super cool that they have it in clear pots, because I think most people who grow these rare aeroids, they typically grow them in clear pots or even in clear pots with leca. So that's really cool that they have that. You can probably transfer this philodendron ring of fire into leca if you wanted. I haven't really delved into leca just because I don't know. I just haven't really mixed any of the plant food. And so some of my plants that are in leca, I just kind of give them trace elements of certain Miracle-Gro. Like I just put a little tiny Miracle-Gro powder in water and just think that that's going to give them the nutrients. I'm probably doing that wrong. But as you can see right here, plant foldies, these are still some beautiful philodendron ring of fires. And with this plant, I just remember 3 to 4 years ago, this was a pretty expensive plant. And now to see that at a big box store is amazing. I mean, $24.97, it's still a little bit pricey, but not to the point where these were going for hundreds of dollars. And so with a lot of the more trendy plants like the alocasias that are variegated, or even like the variegated billietiae, I'm gonna wait another year or two, and I can guarantee you those plants are gonna be more readily available for a more cost-effective price. Like you gotta think, right? Philodendron ring of fire, we've seen a lot of philodendron pink princess. I remember when a philodendron pink princess cutting with not as much variegation was still selling for like more than $100 a couple years back. So that's the thing, plant foldies. As we do these big box store plant shopping videos, I'll be able to show you at least certain plants that are able to, you know, at least able to go lower in price is what I'm trying to say. So you'll be the first to see as they these plant prices and the trends that they have in my big box store videos. But you can see here, cuddly cactus. I didn't know that cuddly cactus can get that large. I usually see them in this size, and I didn't realize that they actually had tiny little needles. I thought that they were they didn't have any needles, but I quickly found out when I picked up one and kind of hurt myself a little bit, so that was on me. But as you can see here, we do have quite a bit of beautiful cuddly cactus. That's another plant that I would definitely add to my collection. If I am going to add a cactus, it's probably going to be a cuddly cactus. It doesn't even look like a real cactus, and it looks like it would be fairly easy to take care of. I would assume that that plant though would need some bright light to really thrive. I think that's really the common plant care tip for any succulent or cactus is that they need bright light, full sun perhaps. I did try to grow some aeoniums in full sun and I ended up frying them, so maybe that's not necessarily the case. You know, when you think of succulents and cactus, you think of them as just being desert plants, but which isn't necessarily true. Some of them actually just are in dry environments, not necessarily a desert. So, you know, it's always a learning process for me. But as you can see here, plant foldies, this used to be super full of plants, and now there's not as many plants available. So maybe they might get a huge shipment. Maybe these are the plants that are going to be carrying us in through the fall, maybe winter. So we'll see. But you can see here, this is a sago palm, and this is for $14.97. The reason why I want to take it down and show you the details is look at how the new growth has really exploded and it has larger leaves. I think that is super cool how it just pushes out a new leaf and then the leaves just kind of unfurl that way. That is definitely a work of art. I've had a sago palm growing up in a landscape. My parents actually planted one in the ground that did very well. They can get fairly large. As far as sago palms, growing them indoors, I need to do a little bit more research. It would be a plant that, you know, I would probably look for and maybe add in my collection. And then obviously this is a plant I feel like everybody should add in their collection. This is the Epipremnum aureum golden pothos. Now, if you want a pretty inexpensive hanging basket, I would definitely recommend buying this one because that's only for $10.97. And then if you don't have this in your plant collection, buy it please, because this is the Raven ZZ plant for $19.84 by Costa Farms Trending Tropicals. Look at how gorgeous the dark foliage is. I have discovered that these plants are literally indestructible. You don't even have to water them nearly as much. Actually, they prefer to be more underwatered and more so on the drier side. And they can tolerate lower light conditions. I have a couple that I rescued specifically from this Walmart when they were on sale for $7, and they're doing just fine. They pushed out so many new leaves. And then I want to show you here again, this is another sago palm. Notice how the sago palm pushes out like that shoot. It gets larger and larger, and then it just curls over and has new leaves. I think that is so cool. And you know, that's something that's interesting. Now, I've never seen a variegated sago palm. I might do some research to see if they actually have a variegated variety, but even that green form is super cool. And then again, here we have an Epipremnum aureum golden pothos. Golden pothos is a classic plant. It's a plant I would ask anybody to add to their collection just because it's an easy to care for plant. It's a plant that doesn't require a lot of care. It can tolerate lower light conditions. The only thing I would say is you need to just make sure you stay on top of the watering. You can't let it dry out too long, otherwise it will start to droop and then it just doesn't do well. Now here's another philodendron white princess. This one is pretty small. And you can see that a lot of these philodendrons, especially the white princess, the white knight, white wizard, the ring of fires, they were mass produced because obviously these are tissue cultured plants. You can kind of tell because of the size of that one, it hasn't been allowed to grow into like a pretty big plant. Now this one is a pretty big one, at least this section right here. What a beautiful leaf. It looks like it's starting to kind of crisp up though. That's the thing about highly variegated plants. Again, their white doesn't always last that long. So you just have to be really mindful of the plant. But otherwise, I still think that the philodendron white princess, this one is really pretty, has a lot of variegation. I would buy that if it was on clearance. I have a couple already growing in my collection and they're doing very well. I actually have them on a pole and look at this. Look at that sago palm right here. Look at the new growth. It is like double the size of the original leaves. I think that is so cool. I almost want to buy this sago palm just to see how large it will get, but you can see that it isn't a self-watering planter. So I don't know if it's just gotten some water, if it's been living its best life. You know, I always assume that this plant needs a lot of light, but you know, obviously it's in the indoor section. So these were definitely not showing signs of new growth. Like this one doesn't have any new growth right here, but that's really cool. Like I like also going to big box stores, the same ones, to kind of see the growth updates of certain plants. Sometimes I feel like certain plants at a big box store, when they're not sold, just seeing the progression of their growth is actually very satisfying for me. And then you can see right here, plant foldies, there are a lot of new growth on this sago palm here. I am curious for anybody that's watching this video, if you've ever actually grown sago palm, what are your care tips and are you a fan of it? And then over here is another philodendron ring of fire. I swear these are super common philodendron now. If they're at a big box store in these numbers, they're just easily and readily available. You know, there are a lot of other uncommon plants, philodendron, that are making it into places like Kroger. They release the philodendron snowdrift, philodendron squamiferum, and I think that they will be releasing the philodendron verrucosum. But a lot of those philodendron, even these ring of fires, are not selling as fast, or maybe people are just not into them. I don't know, but I know for a fact that if you buy anything more than $40 for a philodendron ring of fire, then you're spending too much because you can go to a big box store. For $14.97, we have another bromeliad here. This one is also being released by Wild Interiors. It's the same company as Grower's Bench, which releases all of those rare and uncommon alocasias. But you can see this is a philodendron. This looks like it was actually watered because there's still some residual water kind of sitting there. And then we have another Epipremnum aureum golden pothos. What I will say about golden pothos is this is probably the plant that has introduced many people into growing plants indoors. Houseplants. This is a plant though, when I was in the Philippines, actually grew massive because they don't really grow them in hanging baskets. They are just growing in the wild, where they attach themselves on like a palm tree or some type of tree, and then they just get really large leaves and start to fenestrate. Now this one is being called a global green pothos by Costa Farms. This one's for $19.84. I don't think this is a global green. I feel like this is more so a lemon meringue pothos, you know, or even just a very, you know, a reverted type of enjoy pothos. Needless to say, beautiful variegation. I do like the green on green variegation, and they have quite a bit of these. I actually remember seeing this be delivered, all of these plants be delivered like maybe a month and a half ago. So clearly these haven't necessarily sold. Now, if you are gonna want an easy to care for plant, this is a plant that I would recommend. This is an easy to care for plant. It does prefer bright indirect light to really get that nice variegation, but this is a plant that you can easily propagate. You can take several cuttings as it starts to trail. The only drawback about this particular pothos is it is a little bit slower growing. Now here is an Aglonema red Siam, or what you would call Aglonema Siam aurora. There's just many different names for it. But this one right here is in a self-watering planter. This was also for $14.97. This is probably one of the common aglaonema you'll find alongside with the Silver Bay. Beautiful plant, a very underrated plant. I think aglaonemas in general are underrated. I wish more people would get into aglaonemas because they're such a beautiful plant, and it's one that I would just recommend. They are very easy in the fact that they are drought tolerant. You don't have to water them nearly as much. You actually will end up killing it if you overwater it, and they can tolerate lower light conditions. Here's the thing about lower light conditions, though, for aglaonema. If you don't give them that bright indirect light, they're not going to have as much color on them, and they're already a slower growing plant, but giving them even less light to photosynthesize will really reduce their growth rate. So you want to make sure that you're giving them quite a bit of light in order for them to really thrive. But as I walk around here, you can see plant folies that there aren't as many plants available. So I'm just kind of curious, and it's going to make me want to go to even more Walmarts. At least with Lowe's, I was able to see more plants in general. So maybe Walmart might be phasing out plants. We'll see. Or maybe they'll get like a huge push for new plants. I would hope for the latter, just because I love plants. And then I also love making videos to show you what plants we have at big box stores. So we'll see. But the plants that they do have, they are fairly healthy. They're beautiful. I would definitely love to get one of these pothos plants. You know, you can never have enough pothos plants. One pothos or Epipremnum pinnatum is a Cebu blue that I have struggled with because I haven't been watering them nearly as much. But since I've gotten back from vacation, I've been able to water them at least twice a week. Their soil dries up very quickly, and I didn't realize that particular plant actually needs quite a bit of water. It also needs quite a bit of light, otherwise it starts to shoot runners. So I thought that was really interesting as well. But for the golden pothos, this one right here, for instance, you want to make sure that you're giving it a little bit more bright light in order for it to have more of that variegation. Otherwise, it'll revert back to like the jade pothos, which is still a beautiful pothos. I like green pothos, like the jade pothos. It's a very quick grower. It's very vigorous in its growth rate if you have the jade pothos. But all of these are actually sourced out by Costa Farms. So if you want a beginner plant and you have a Walmart that sells them, I think that the pothos that are being sold at Walmart are very good price. The 6-inch starter planters like these are only for $9.97. So that is not a bad price at all. Actually, a lot of their Garden Expert tropical plants for $9.97 is really inexpensive. They've got some Diphyllobachias, Dracaenas, for instance, snake plants that are that price. But again, beautiful plants. Some people say it's common. And then I remember seeing this spider plant, Bonnie, the curly spider plant. This is really cute as well. Now this is for $19.84. I would like to get a spider plant at some point. I would like to be able to grow more hanging baskets, but I don't really want to drill a lot of holes in my ceiling. And then some of the command strips that I have, it will only hold the smaller hanging baskets. Like, I would not recommend actually doing that because I had one that started to peel off the ceiling. I didn't want that plant to like fall. The only hanging baskets I have are Hoyas, and I have one Hoya in my kitchen, for instance, in front of my kitchen window. It's a Hoya Carnosa Crimson Princess. It's doing fairly well. But this is another hanging basket again that I remember seeing. This is a teardrop peperomia. This one is also for $19.84. I like the look of a teardrop peperomia. I think peperomias in general, if you stay on top of the watering, they're a very easy plant, and they don't really get a lot of plant pests, or at least in my experience, they don't. But I am excited to be able to add some of that to my collection. You know, as Walmart has kind of downsized the amount of plants that they have, it's kind of reflective of what's going on with my personal plant collection. I've been downsizing and getting rid of certain plants, composting a couple. Some of them just didn't make it, went on my vacation, so I'm not really replenishing my selection. Although I will say the last couple of days I did end up adding a couple more plants, but those are plants that I know I have time to invest to take care of. But you can see, look at how interesting that white variegation is on that golden pothos. And it's just interesting how certain plants They just randomly get these variegations. I'm not really sure why, but that's the thing about variegation. It's very unpredictable. The only plants I would say that hold their variegation no matter what would be like a Monstera Thai constellation, just because it's a tissue culture plant, so you'll never have to worry about it really reverting. Now over here is a sad looking Ficus Audrey. This one's for $14.97. I do like Ficus Audrey. I remember seeing those in the Philippines grow into full blown trees, like 20 to 40 feet or 20 to 30 feet in height. And then right here, we've got a Monstera Peru for $19.84. There's quite a bit of those, and I am happy that I was given a free Monstera Peru by a plant foldie. A friend of mine, her name is Gloria. I really appreciate it that I was able to get that. And that's the cool thing about our plant foldie community, is that we have been able to interact with each other. I've gotten to know a lot of you guys. I love seeing you guys on the live premiere chats. Again, you know, shout out to Kathy, for instance. We always look for you. Kathy is our viewer from Canada. All of my Canadian plant foldies, you guys are awesome. And for all the new plant foldies that have just recently found the channel, I hope you continue to watch my videos, as I try my very best to do 1 hour plant shopping videos on a daily basis. I may miss a day or two. I'm actually going to try to perhaps downsize and have one day off just to kind of regroup. But for now, I'm still enjoying that I have a daily plant content for you. So, you know, all I ask is if you're able to watch my videos, watch them through the whole way through, leave many comments. I love the fact that even last night's video got more than 100 comments in under 24 hours. That helps push the video out to even more plant lovers like yourself, and also hitting that like button. Now you can see here, this is a pretty leggy looking Monstera Stedliana. I have one of those as well. Mine actually is pushing out more pure white leaves, so I'm gonna have to like cut that back to promote some green. And then this is a better looking Ficus Audrey. So this one is for $14.97. Now I did buy a Ficus Audrey, but I bought it at Sprouts because it was on 50% off. I ended up getting it for $6.47. So I ended up getting a much better deal for the same size plant. So again, it is all about canvassing and checking out the different pricing for plants. You really want to do your research and just really look around, maybe even just window shop. So I always feel like my YouTube channel for plant shopping is a really good reference on what the current plant pricing is, at least in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So if you haven't already, plant foldies, please make sure you are hitting that subscribe button, but also making sure the notification bell is on. I've noticed that some of our viewers say that they've missed a premiere, but if you have the notification bell on, it will notify you when a new video gets uploaded. For instance, I've gotten a lot of new shorts YouTube videos. I know the majority of you guys watch the longer forms, but you might want to just explore the video, my channel, and see if you missed a couple of the shorts videos or any uploads if you get some time. But you can see here, plant foldies, we are looking at a bunch of bromeliads. Now these are all for $14.97. I like bromeliads. I've grown to like them, especially seeing some more of the more unique varieties. This one in particular is not one that I'm really into. I like more of those flatter looking ones, or the ones with more unique texture and color. Although I do like that bright yellow, orange bloom, if that's really what you would call a bloom. Really like that a lot. It almost looks like somebody just spray painted some neon orange spray paint on it. It's a really nice looking plant. You know, in the Philippines, when I was over there for vacation, they had a lot of bromeliads just growing out in the landscape. A lot of them ended up actually getting very massive sizes, and that's the thing about all of these tropical plants we're looking at. If you put them in a tropical environment, in their natural environment, they will grow to their full potential. And over here, we've got some Phalaenopsis orchids. That's the thing about orchids. I would say Phalaenopsis orchids are available year-round. I just don't know how suppliers do it, but there are quite a bit of Phalaenopsis orchids. And then this one is another pretty bromeliad. So plant foldies, I am curious, does anybody really grow bromeliads? And this one is also for $14.97. I'm just curious to see if anybody else likes to grow bromeliads. I don't have a problem with certain bromeliads. I used to not like bromeliads at all, but these ones are the ones I'm not as big of a fan of. Now over here is for $24.97. Is another Anthurium, a blooming Anthurium. I like the blooms. I love the red. This is the common red one. I do like the pink ones more so, but this one has beautiful foliage. That's really where I'm more of a fan of. Like, even if it was not in bloom, I would still appreciate it because I like the foliage. The leaves really look nice, but look at the close-up on these beautiful blooms right here. Really like the colors of it. This is another plant that thrives more so in bright light. You definitely want to stay on top of the watering as well for that plant. And then over here we have a bunch of just regular ZZ plants. So these are just the green form, the basic one, and this one is for $14.97. Now this is another plant that every plant lover should have in their plant collection, simply because it's an easy to care for plant. It's a plant that has a higher probability of not making it to plant heaven. I don't think you can kill that plant unless you overwater it. Same thing with the Raven ZZ. So these are plants especially for people like me that don't really like to water their plants. I wouldn't even say I don't like to water my plants. I just don't always have the time to do that or to commit to it. And so like a Raven ZZ, very easy to care for because you don't have to water it as often. And with Costa Farms actually putting this in a Trending Tropicals self-watering planter, you just have to fill the self-watering planter with water in the reservoir and then you're good to go. I haven't had any issues with this, and I do love the fact that this Raven ZZ, for instance, the new growth comes out green and then it darkens to a dark raven black color. It's a very elegant looking plant. And then over here is the lone Epipremnum pinnatum Baltic Blue. So this one right here, of all the Epipremnum pinnatums, this actually can fenestrate without having to really attach itself on a moss pole or some type of structure. Now this is another plant that's very common to find in my home country, the Philippines. This is really considered a weed. I remember just seeing a bunch of Epipremnum pinnatum just crawling across the grass, trying to find a tree to just attach itself on, and then it would just get the more mature leaves. And then over here we've got a bunch of Monstera Perus. Can we say that Monstera Peru just has a beautiful leaf texture about it? I really like that texture on the leaves, and then that deep emerald green color is really nice. And then for $14.97, plant foldies, we've got another Ficus lyrata or fiddle fig leaf tree. I remember when this used to be the it plant a couple years back. Everybody wanted a fiddle fig leaf. It was all in those design home magazines where people had to get it. Needless to say, this is a more challenging plant to take care of. It's not really a beginner plant. Now, as far as its maximum height, I just remember seeing this as a full-blown tree in the Philippines, up to 20 to 30 feet tall. It was just beautiful. And if you haven't already visited some of my videos from the Philippines, I've uploaded 4, and you will be able to see all of these plants that I'm showing you from a big box store to their full maximum potential in their natural environment. So I highly recommend it. I hope you'll take the time to binge watch some of my Philippine plants videos from my vacation. You'll also see some of the spots that I visited in the Philippines. Really had a great time. It was time that I definitely needed. So it's always interesting to get back in the groove, whether it's for work, and even just getting back into YouTube. You know, I miss driving and traveling to these big box stores. And more so, I just like the fact that I've been able to interact with you guys again on the live chats. Sometimes I'm a little bit late just because I'm finishing up filming. But for my regulars, again, I cannot thank you enough for just constantly being in my live chat premieres. Continue to do so. Even if you don't see me, interact with each other. I'm hoping that we can continue to just get more engagement. The comments do help. The likes definitely help. And if you have social media like Facebook or anything, feel free to share my my plant channel with other plant lovers. I'd love to just interact with you guys even more so. But as you can see here, these are the last of some of the plants I'm going to feature on this video. You can see this is a global green pothos, but I don't know if it is really a global green, if it's more so like a lemon meringue pothos. Now this one I feel like is a global green because you can see that there is quite a bit of a green on green variegation, and the leaves are a little bit larger. When you're comparing global green pothos as compared to say an enjoy pothos or even a lemon meringue pothos, the leaves are a little bit smaller, but you can see that this has some really nice green on green variegation. Again, I would say you want to make sure that you are giving this quite a bit of light in order for the variegation to pop out. If you don't, it will be more so green or more of a subtle green on green variegation. So this is an example of a plant that the variegation is very much so influenced by the amount of light you give it. You know, there's certain plants like, for instance, a philodendron pink princess, a Monstera albo, where even if you flood it with light, you could definitely prevent it from like really reverting, I would say, but it doesn't necessarily push out more variegation. It's really the initial genetics of the plant. But for a global green pothos, although I do think that this is more of a lemon meringue pothos, you definitely want to give it more bright light to really push out all of that variegation. And, you know, I'm curious to see if anybody has pretty much all of the different varieties of pothos. If so, let me know in the comments. I am in the hunt to get quite a bit of the pothos this year or maybe next year. Again, I'm just recalibrating my houseplant collection. Once I get everything squared away and taken care of, it'll just be a houseplant tour that I can produce for you. I'm just embarrassed to show you some of my plants because some of them aren't doing as well as they should. Just like some of the other plant YouTubers out there, they have perfect houseplant collections, but to me, I feel like nobody has a perfect houseplant collection. It's just what we choose to show. Unfortunately, I don't really want to show my plants quite yet just because I need to get those under control. I am excited though to be able to show you some of the plants I'm getting imported from Indonesia, from Green Spaces Indonesia. So look out for that. That's some more brand new content. And also my video that I want to premiere at least tomorrow, if possible Friday evening, of Peta's planters. She just recently got a bunch of new plants, some nice variegated plants. So definitely want to get a big plant party for tomorrow. But for those that have already made it to this plant shopping video and have stayed this long, thank you. Just make sure you're hitting that like button and just leaving those comments. But you can see this one right here is a Scindapsus trubii Moonlight, $19.84 in a self-watering planter. Now with Scindapsus, especially Scindapsus Moonlight, this is such a slow growing plant. Although this is a plant that I do want to add to my collection because it is low light tolerant. The only thing is if you don't give it that light, it will not be a silver blue as it should be. But beautiful plant. This again was another plant that was really challenging to find. It was really expensive. Now the dark form of this is still quite expensive as well. I haven't seen that out in the market, but at least this one is more readily available at a big box store. So I don't know, plant foldies, where have all the plants gone this summer? Like, it is only July heading into August. Are all the plants going to be phased out? Leave me your thoughts. Also, just let me know if your big box stores still have quite a bit of plants. All of the Walmarts that I went to just the last couple of months were super full. So I'm just curious why we only have like this one this Ficus lyrata that's left here. It kind of makes me sad that there's not quite as many plants. I was hoping to run into more plants here. So we'll see what that looks like in the next couple of weeks. You know, I'm hoping to film throughout next week to get you guys some more daily videos. I may throw in a compilation video for some of the newer content that I had, just so I can have at least one day to where I can take a break. Hopefully you'll still tune in and interact with each other. But as you can see here, very sparse selection of plants. But you can still find some quality plants you can take home. Like for instance, this one right here is a Dracaena for $9.97. A really good price for that. Probably the best pricing for a Dracaena, because if you're gonna buy, say, a Costa Farms Exotic Angel Dracaena for $5.98, that's in a pot that's like 3 inches. This one is a 6-inch pot, so you'll get a larger plant. And, you know, Dracaenas in general are very slow growing. They're not a fast growing plant. They are an easy plant. They have some beautiful coloration. And I just think that they're such an underrated plant. I do have a couple that are growing in my collection and they have not given me any issues. You know, the only issue I would have is that sometimes they'll have some browning tips, but a pair of scissors will get rid of that. You can just chop off that and it'll still look really nice. But that's the one thing that surprised me about plants like this. Like maybe there is this connotation that Dracaenas like this are more so like an office business plant, but I still think that they have room to be part part of a plant collection, somebody's plant collection or indoor garden, just let me know in the comments why you like Dracaenas or why you don't like Dracaenas. Like this one right here, this Dracaena Hawaiian Fragrans, this one can get fairly large. It can get up to 4 to 5 feet in height. It can get a really nice cane. It is low tolerant. It's got some nice green on green variegation. If you don't want to kill a plant, buy yourself this Dracaena Hawaiian Fragrans for $9.97. It's such a good price for a plant. Highly recommended. I'm just trying to start a trend to where everybody will just get into these more uncommon plants. I just feel like, I'm not uncommon plants, these common plants. I just feel like they need a little bit more so love than most people are giving them. I mean, right over here, this is actually in pretty good condition too. So when you think about all of the other plants that are kind of declining in health, this one is still pushing through. And if you buy this plant, for instance, for $9.97, you're getting 2 plants that you can separate. That's another thing I do whenever I go plant shopping is I look at how many plants are in one plant, and if you are able to find multiple plants, then you're getting even a better deal. And then over here again, you can't ever go wrong by getting a golden pothos. That's just a plant that everybody should have. I kind of just go back and forth on which pothos plant I like. I honestly like them all pretty equally at this point, just because there's a certain characteristic I appreciate. And then you can see this is a Dieffenbachia. So $9.97. I always said that Dieffenbachia are more challenging to grow indoors. They are. But when I went to the Philippines, I was seeing Dieffenbachia that were just massive. They were like 4 to 5 feet tall. They were just growing outside. And I just think that Dieffenbachia need light. Although they can tolerate lower light conditions in the wild, they definitely like humidity more so. And because whenever you grow Dieffenbachia indoors, at least in the United States, they are a little bit more spider mite prone. So I have a newfound love for Dieffenbachia. There might be certain Dieffenbachia that I am gonna try to introduce into my household once I get everything situated, once I get everything like organized in my house. But that's another plan after going to the Philippines. I may visit. There's a Dieffenbachia Puerto Rico that I want to get, some more variegated Dieffenbachia. The only Dieffenbachia I have is actually a Dieffenbachia Cool Beauty, which is growing outside and it's doing fairly well for me. But plant foldies, you can see that these plants, there's just not that many plants. I will see what that looks like. I am just hoping that we will get more plants. You know, where did all the plants go? That is really the question of the hour. If you have any insights on that, let me know. But for the most part, you know, I still enjoy being able to just look around and look at these plants. Again, just looking at plants, not necessarily buying them. There is a certain level of therapy that we all can get. We can all relax and just have some fun chatting with each other. But as you can see here, plant foldies. Again, let me know if you have any commentary, or if you want me to go feature certain plants, leave that in the comments as well. As always, if you made it this far into the video, please hit the like button for my video. It helps a ton, as well as leaving many comments if you can. That would be awesome. I just love responding to each and every single one of you guys. You can see here, this is such a beautiful little Aglaonema red Siam. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, Grow Folds, with the notification bell on. This is Richie at Grow Folds. I am super excited to show you my next video tomorrow. I'll see you soon. Bye.